Hello everybody, welcome to the J72 Gaming channel. My name is Jacob, but you guys can just call me Jay here. And today I want to tell you the tragedy of my Carnotaurus. I want to take you guys on a bit of a story, but along the story I'm going to show you guys some cool locations in the map that you may or may not have been to, and just generally bring you along the ride. So I hope you guys are interested in the story, and if you are, make sure you sit back, kick back, and grab a snack as we get into the story, the tragedy of my Carnotaurus. Enjoy. So our story today starts with us chilling by a pond just south of the South Plains. Now, when I actually spawned, I spawned right next to two giant Carnotaurus, and I think they might have set the attitude, the vibe, if you will, for the rest of the playthrough, because I spawned and I was like, yo! And they didn't say anything. They just walked past me and completely ignored me, and I was a little sad. That's going to be the theme here. So our Carnotaurus is a little bit sad on this adventure, but it's still the Isle, and I always have fun playing this game, even when tragedies happen. So yeah, I actually started recording after I had gone to the sanctuary in South Plains and filled up on our diet. And now this brings me to the other thing I was talking about with this video, that I want to show you guys some kind of cool locations. I made it to a few very hidden freshwater ponds in this map, and I'm not sure if that many of you actually use the maps when you're playing the game, so you might not know about these. They're very secluded and very hidden, and this one right here is extremely close to South Plains, but not many people frequent it. Every time I've been to it, I've always been alone. So yeah, I started my life here, and you can see that I've got full diets, and just kind of hung out by the river, just kind of growing, just kind of hanging out. But eventually that got boring, so we got up and headed out to have a little bit of fun on the beach. You see, we're a young Carnotaurus, and every now and then you just you gotta frolic on the beach, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I just had some fun kind of going around, just doing some dodges and splashing in the water, but even that got boring after a while, because let's be real, it's not really doing anything. So I thought, all right, where do I want to go? I could hang out in the South Plains area, and you know, it'd be entertaining, it'd be kind of convenient food. There's almost always food, but it'd be risky, right? There's a lot of death that happens in South Plains. And I decided, no, I want to see the map. I want to take this guy kind of around the map and follow the migration zones and you know, use those legs that the Carnotaurus are so well known for. So I decided, let's head on out to the swamp as our first spot. So as I made it to the swamp, I figured that we could benefit from a little bit of food. You know, it's always beneficial on a carnivore to fill your belly. It's just better safe than sorry, right? And I was still small enough that I could go to the sanctuary down here in the swamp, which, if you guys don't know, is on the western side of the swamp. But unfortunately, the swamp was really quiet today, and I think it's because the migration zone was nowhere near it. It was currently the river delta, which we will head on to next. But yeah, I was just kind of hanging out here for a little bit, kind of smelling around, and I do just want to take a time to say, like, I think this is one of the best looking areas in the entire map. All the sanctuaries look really cool, but specifically the swamp with like the mud and the high, like the mud flat areas with the raised up trees and all these like little branch areas sticking out that look really good. However, and this is a theme going forward, I was a little bit too quick for my feet here in the swamp and managed to get myself lodged within one of these cool little downed trees, if you will, or whatever these things are, the wooden structures that are protruding out of the ground. And I thought I was going to be done for. You can see me struggling here, just kind of trying to get out. But luckily, I think I grew big enough that it kind of popped me out. So that was good. And I was like, great, I don't have to restart. But I really thought this creature was done for, to be honest. But yeah, nothing was going on in the swamp here. I did hear some AI calling up the hills, so I figured, screw it. I'll head on up to the hills and kind of make my way to the river delta, which was the migration zone, by going up and over instead of taking the river tunnel or kind of skirting around the mountain. Now, as I was climbing up this mountain, I heard the AI, but I couldn't quite locate it. And you guys should start taking tabs on how many times I mentioned that happening here in this video, because it might allude to the overall tragedy here of this poor little Carnotaurus. But I did manage to make my way up to the very top of the swamp and got this awesome vista view, right? This game always looks amazing, right? And looking back at the swamp with this vista view, there's a rule I like to mention in any dinosaur game, any animal survival game, right, is if you get to an awesome vista view, you gotta roar. It's just the rules. I don't make the rules. It's just what you gotta do. Anyway, at this point, I was at the top of the mountain and was feeling good, right? I've played the Carnotaurus a lot. I feel very comfortable in running around, but I think I might have been playing a bit too much Herrerasaurus because as I was jumping around and skirting my way through, making sure I don't accidentally run myself off a cliff, I was honestly very, very careful, but I made my way almost all the way down the other side of the mountain, and then this happened. And so unfortunately, I was a little bit too quick for my own good once again, just like the incident with the branches in the swamp. I took a tumble, unfortunately, and so tragedy number one of this Carnotaurus is that he took a tumble into the river delta, and that forced me to sit for quite a while, not gonna lie. I had to sit for a good 10-15 minutes. I actually hopped on my phone and played Warcraft Rumble, if you guys are a fan of that game. Shout out Warcraft Rumble, love that game. Although it's been very buggy in the past weeks, but we don't need to get into that. Anyway, I bide my time by playing some of that as my Carnotaurus here healed off the wound, as well as just the damage that I had done to myself. So after I had sat around for way too long, it was definitely night at that point. But you can see here I'm 24% grown and feeling a little bit better. Yeah, it was annoying that I had to sit for a long time, but hey, sometimes in the Isle, just having any reason to pass some time so that your character can grow is a good thing. However, we were very hungry and our nutrition was starting to drain, which wasn't the greatest thing in the world. So because I knew that the river delta used to be the migration zone, I headed down over there, sniffed out some food, and actually found this little corpse of a stegosaurus, although it's almost as big as me. Poor guy was probably 20%, 30% grown, and it looks like he got killed by a croc, so I was very worried, but I used my speed, quickly went over there, hit G to grab something, and I managed to get a ton of intestines, which is nasty looking, but the good thing for us is that was actually a lot of food for one little grab, using G and just grabbing. Sometimes you just get a small chunk of flesh, and it's like not a lot, but we actually got a whole bunch of intestines that fed our belly all the way, which is really cool. So after that, figured I'd grab some water. This spot of the river is relatively safe, but I used to think it was perfectly safe. It's not. I'll show you guys on the map where it is. It's these little offshoots here in the river delta area. It looks like it's pretty shallow, but you can actually fit a decently sized croc in the water there. So 20, 30, 40% sized croc can definitely fit in there. So definitely be wary if you're in this area. It feels safe. It's not. There could be a croc thinking that you think it's safe. So yeah, after filling up, I thought, well, where do I go now? I kind of could just sit in a bush again, but I wanted to go to interesting locations. And there was a place I've only been to once, and I was my pteranodon. And I've never actually been there with a terrestrial. So I made my way up, and there's this little hidden body of freshwater pond. This is another one of those cool hidden spots I wanted to show you guys on this journey today. And here it is on the map. It's very, very hidden, and I made my way up there. However, tragedy number 2 happened, and this made me really realize that I need to slow down with my Carno, because I was, like I said, I was playing it like a Herrera, I was playing it like a Troodon, playing it like a Hipsy even. I was just running around, and of course, I broke my legs again. At this point, I was getting kind of frustrated, not at the game, but at myself. So, once again, I sat in a bush and had to wait it out, which wasn't fun, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So after once again sitting for way too long, once again, I was about 30% grown, which was solid at this point, honestly. 30% grown Carno is still a very small creature, all things considered in the Isle, but it can finally start kind of throwing its weight around with some of the other juvenile creatures out there, right? Like a juvenile Utah Raptor, juvenile Herrera, whatever. Things aren't as quite scary. So because of that, I wanted to start seeing people, right? So I did make it to that freshwater pond and filled up on water over there. But just like the swamp and just like the river delta, it was a little quiet, right? I didn't see anybody, and there wasn't any like fish for me to go try to fish out with the Carno, which I don't recommend you try to do, but it's technically possible. Anyway, because of all this, I wanted to see people, and I wanted to have a little bit more fun in the game, right? And I really specifically wanted to try to scavenge some corpses instead of just trying to hunt for AI. So with that, and with the new day starting, I figured let's go kind of risk it for the biscuit, if you will. Risk it for the organs, risk it for the diet, for the meal, whatever term, risk it for the snack, right? Whatever term you want to use. We're going to risk it up at the Highland Lake. Now, this Highland Lake, I'm sure most of you who have played the Isle in Gateway know that this is very likely to be the most popular area of the map, if not here, then South Plains where I first spawned, but Highland Lake is very populated. There's like almost always people there. And so I went up here, and on the way there, dawn broke, right? The sunrise came up, and I'm just going to shut up for a little bit and let you guys experience this for about 20 seconds, because this sunrise was awesome. And with that, that was your moment of zen. Hope you guys enjoyed that. This game always looks so incredible. But now that we were in the Highlands Lake, I started making my way over to the water just to kind of scout around, see what I could see. And I actually came across 2 Carnos yet again. I don't know if these were the 2 Carnos that I mentioned at the very start that I saw the second I spawned in. But I walked up to these 2 and I said, yo, in the chat. And I was trying to, be friendly and see if they wanted to hang out or group or hunt or whatever. But they didn't say anything. They just kind of looked at me and ignored me. So this is the second time now that our poor young little Carnotaurus has been completely ignored by his own species, which it just felt bad, man. Poor little guy. So with that sadness in his heart, I walked over to the side of this tree here and sat down because we had a new mutation to grab. So for our first mutation, I had actually grabbed just the one that makes your food drain slower. I grabbed that on a lot of creatures, to be honest. But on this guy, I actually decided to grab photosynthetic tissue, which is faster health and locked health recovery and higher move speed during the day, because I figured he's a Carnotaurus. 5 extra speed during the day when I can see things might be very useful. And it was, I suppose, throughout the whole thing. But nothing really was going on in Highland Lake other than those Carnos that I saw. That I sniffed around, didn't see any food or whatever, and figured, cool. We tried it. It wasn't really working for us out here. Nothing to scavenge. And the migration zone had actually just changed up to the northeastern lake. And I figured that's not too far, all things considered. Got to go past the dam and the jungle. So I decided to head on over in that direction and see what I could find over there. So once I made it to the dam, nothing really crazy happened here, other than I did find some salt rocks that I personally didn't know existed here, and so I munched on those just for the heck of it, because it looked cool. The salt rocks don't actually give you any food in the game, but they do heal diseases and stuff if you have that. But when I was walking past the lake, I did see a little croc. This is a place that a lot of crocodiles spawn, so you can kind of always guarantee that there's a little one swimming around or whatever. So I was actually going to see if he wanted to come up on shore to maybe eat a fish or something. So I prowled out a little bit in the hiding in the forest, but he never actually quite hopped on land, so I didn't quite get to make use of that. I did end up following over here. He hopped into the river down below, and I even actually thought about diving into the water just to see if I could snag him, but I figured overall that's probably a bad idea. I didn't need food that bad at this point in time, so I decided that was not really the option to go for. So instead I just kind of followed along the river and crossed to the bridge here and made my way into the northern jungle. Now, the northern jungle was actually pretty good for me, my little Carno. I managed to very early on get a deer that just yelled at me, and I was like right next to it, so I stopped, looked at it, and I was like, all right, free meal, you know? And also when I was heading further north towards the migration zone, something ran past me. You can hear the thumps here, hopefully, over me talking. But I don't know what it was, and I lost sight of it extremely fast, so I'm wondering if it sat in a bush because it heard me, but at the moment, I thought it was possibly either a small Carno or, more specifically, I actually thought it was a young Diablo, and I was like, ooh, I could try to hunt the Diablo. So I searched around for a little bit to find that guy, but I couldn't, and figured I'd just cut my losses after a few minutes of hunting around aimlessly in the jungle. But I do really wonder if he was just sitting next to me the entire time. But anyway, that didn't really work out, so I continued making my way over to the migration zone out in the northeast. Now, as I was approaching the northern east, the North Lake migration zone, I get to another spot that I want to show you guys here on the map that I'm not sure a lot of you have explored yet. Now, the volcano up here in this section of the map isn't really a surprise for anybody, but how many of you have actually gone up there to check it out? Because there's not lava, oddly enough. In fact, there's a really nice grotto up there with another little pond of fresh water. I really like this spot, and I've been meaning to try to grow something, perhaps Pteranodon or something, just kind of hang out in this area for its full life, using the lake just nearby as a food source. But yeah, it's a really cool little spot. So I went up here, got some water, and sat and got a bunch of stamina because I was about to go explore the migration zone and hopefully get into a fight. So after sitting up here on my perch to regain my stamina, I made my way down to the lake, and since I've played a Gallimimus in the past, I know that a lot of the diets that the herbivores of this area want are actually on the eastern side of the lake, right? There's a lot of agave and like mango trees and stuff like that. So I made my way over there, crossed the bridge to be safe, never tempt crocs, always be safe if there's a bridge, and made my way on over there. And very quickly, I actually found what I was looking for, which was a Gallimimus. Now, unfortunately, I was looking for a young Gallimimus. I was hoping to find one that was just a little bit younger and so that I could easily chew on, you know. But this one was a little bit bigger, and you can kind of tell here. I'm gonna let this clip play out because we do end up getting into a fight here, which was pretty fun. But you can kind of tell by my attitude, I didn't really want to fight him. He seemed to be fully grown, or at least 80%, 70, 80%. So he was a little worrisome, but I knew that I could hold my ground too. So I'm gonna let this clip play out. You can see that. Yeah, I'm biting him, and he's kicking me, and we're kind of trading punches. So enjoy this little bit of a combat for a little bit. Alright, so at this point in the fight, I knew I was way too low on stamina. I wasn't really conserving it very well. So I started walking away, and I kind of knew he would follow me. And that's when I pulled off this awesome move that I'm proud of. At this whole point in this fight, I hadn't used alt moves. Right here, bam, turned with a 180 alt move attack, and I'm sure that did a lot of damage. So at this point, he ran away just to probably heal off the bleed, and I needed to do the same as well. So I went off, hid in the bushes for a little bit, way too long, as the aisle takes forever to heal anything. But then when I got my healing done, I actually got up and I was like, you know what? This was fun. I think I can beat this guy if I use some alt turns and conserve my stamina a little bit more. So I went out to try to find him, and as soon as I saw him, unfortunately, right behind him was a Packy, and I was like, I can't take both of these. So immediately, I had to juke them. I knew that the Packy was probably going to be following the Galley, and the Galley was kind of beelining it straight for me. So I had to juke him, kind of ran around, did a little bit of S-bend, and went back to where they had came from, and juked him pretty well, I think. And then this is where, after I escaped from those guys, this is where tragedy number 3 happened, and I came across another Carno. Although this Carno was AFK, I assume, or just staring down my soul and ignoring me to the highest level of a possibility. But it was really sad. Yeah, I was chatting with him. I was like, hello, yo, like, you want to fight the Packy and the Galley? Because with two Carnos, I definitely think we could have taken them and we would have had a good meal. And at this point, I was starting to get a little bit hungry. I hadn't seen any AI since that deer, and I've been just chasing this Galley around for the last like, 5, 8, 10 minutes, whatever it was. So it was a real shame. It was tragedy number 3. Got ignored yet again by another Carno. And I hate to break it to you guys, but from now on, it's just tragedy after tragedy after tragedy for a poor little Carno. So as it was starting to get a little bit darker and it was going to be nighttime, I figured I needed to find AI food, and I did have that luck of that deer in the jungle. So I could have gone south, but I figured, screw it, I'll just go back to where I came from, work my way kind of back towards the center of the map and choose where I want to go once I get there. So I dove towards the jungle, but as I got to the bridge, a Serato came charging straight at me, and I noped super hard, kind of juked him, went around him, and sped off more west, because I am not messing with the little Serato if I am also a little Carno. At this point, I was about 40, maybe 50% grown, but still overall pretty small. So unfortunately, guys, like I said, this is where the tragedy starts happening. Now, I've talked a lot about AI spawns in the past. I've talked about food spawns too, with like plants and stuff, and how I think that the spawning rate of AI and stuff in the Isle is a little bit too low. I have played on a server that has 2 times AI rate spawns, and that's too much, but 1 time I genuinely think is too low. And you'll see here in the next bit of the video, I couldn't find food no matter how hard I tried. So I journeyed all the way through the jungle. And I do want to show you this little body of water that I stopped off on halfway through. It's yet another one of those super hidden little bodies of water. And I headed here, since I didn't find any food in the jungle, I actually headed here in a hope, in a lot, last-ditch effort, a Hail Mary idea that there would be some fish that would spawn, and then I could dive in and try to swim around and get it, because I knew nobody would be up there. It was super secluded, right? But no fish spawned, no AI spawned, and at this point, I was getting a little nervous and a little frustrated at the game, because I was like, come on, game, spawn AI. Like, help me out here. I haven't seen AI since that deer, like 20, 30 minutes prior, and it just wasn't working for me. So now, I did have a quick little moment here when I'm crossing the bridge that I actually stole a fish from this crocodile, and he was a little upset with me. So that did help me a little bit, but you can see it barely increased my food meter at all. So I was still extremely in trouble. Didn't hear any food calls at all in the jungle, which was infuriating. But when I did cross the river, I got the second type of infuriating situation when it comes to the Isle, is that I was hearing the AI, but it was very far in the distance. And when I would run over there, I would stop, and you can see me here just stopping, waiting, and I'm just listening. I'm listening for the AI to see if I can, relocate it again, and it would never call again, to the point where I had to give up, right? I was really racing against the clock at this point. I was getting very nervous. I was getting anxious. I was like, I don't want to lose my Carno to starvation. That is such a boring way to lose a creature in the Isle, especially one that's already had kind of a fun life, right? We've been places, we've seen things, we've hunted people, we've dodged people, stuff like that. So it was a frustrating situation, and like I said, I was getting a little annoyed at this point, and so I decided, well, let me just keep. At this point, I'm already close to the Highlands Lake. Let's walk over to the Highlands, and hopefully there's something happening at the Highlands Lake, right? But this AI calling and me hearing it and stopping and waiting happened about 2 or 3, I don't even know, 4 times, and every time it would happen, I'd be like, oh my god, spawn, like show yourself. I guess it was spawned, but I couldn't find it, and it wasn't calling fast enough to alert me to where it was. And so eventually I made my way up to the Highlands Lake. And when I finally got here, guys, this is the part where I am super frustrated. So I get here, I'm starving, I'm anxious, I'm really annoyed, right? That I haven't found AI the whole time. And I'm like, please don't let me die to starvation. When I finally get here, I sniff around, right? And I see some food on the side of the lake, and I'm like, great. This for sure is a croc putting this here so that it's baiting me, right? But I'm a Carno, and I think at this point I've got to try it. So I run up, I hit G, and I get out of there really quick. And I managed to pull it off. And of course, there's the croc, and he was waiting for me the whole time. However, the fish bugs out. I don't know if you guys have had this bug before. It's super frustrating. It really kind of ruins your character and you have to relog. But the fish, I couldn't get it off my face and I couldn't eat it. Now this fish probably would have saved my life, right? It would have given me a little 2, 3, 4 more minutes of time to run around and search for more food. But because I was so desperate and so frustrated at this point, I was like, I need to log out now because I'm going to die of starvation. And so I made in hindsight, the really dumb decision to sit not too far away from the croc, which was going to be the end of me. So you can see here, I sit down and a few seconds go by. And at about 30 seconds, I hear footprints. Now in my brain in this moment, I'll put you in my situation. I'm frustrated. I'm annoyed. I'm not thinking clearly. I'm getting a little angry at the game, which isn't good, but it's natural, right? It's the reality. And I think to myself in this moment, there's no way that this is the footsteps I hear are the croc, right? I'm thinking it's a new Carno, Serrato, something. And I'm like, they might hear me, yes, but I have 30 seconds. I don't know if they can see me. And so I just stay sitting. And unfortunately, I get hit by the croc, and I just sit back in my chair going, God damn it. I'm so frustrated, right? Such a tragedy. But then the croc takes me to the water, and I guess he runs out of stamina because he was walking the whole time, and I was like, oh, wait, I'm going to live? And so I walk away, and I'm like, no way, do I actually live? I'm like low on starvation, emotions are going roller coaster ups and down. But of course, nah, I don't know. I died of bleed or starvation. One of the two happened at that moment. Probably bleed. And that was the end. That was the tragedy of my experience as a solo Carnotaurus player. And so, folks, that ends the story of my solo experience as a Carnotaurus. Now, I hope you guys understand that my frustration with the game is very situational. I really don't like the food, and so it did make me flustered, and I made some bad decisions, and it led to my death, right? I didn't keep a cool head like I normally do. And it is what it is, right? But that bug really set me off. If I hadn't got that bug with that fish, I probably wouldn't have made that stupid decision. But I was like, I need to sit now, and that's ultimately what led to my death. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this journey. I hope you guys like this format. Let me know if you like this video format, because it's very easy for me to play for a while and then kind of give a recap in this sort of way. It's a fun new format that I'm testing out, and I want to know if you guys like this style of video. Anyway, guys, let me know down below all about that, and like and comment, do all that YouTube stuff. I do also want to give a shout out to Evrima Quick Guides. I've partnered with them, and they are a website that gives you guides and information that you can quickly check out and see what they're all about, and gives a list of Evrima stuff, information on the dinosaurs, their diets, locations, stuff like that. So go give them a check out, and thanks for the partnership to them. Thank you. And also thank you to you guys for watching. But until next time, guys, I have been Jay, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.